Welcome back to The Charismatic Voice. I know Linda Ronstadt only from The Pirates of Penzance, which is an operetta that I deeply studied in high school. Turns out she also does rock and country, which honestly, when I first heard somebody say that, I was in total disbelief. I am so excited to get to hear this other side of her voice now. Let's get to it. Definitely not operetta. Conga? Whoa. If ever there's a time when my mind is just broken, this is one of those times. And my body is catching up. I'm like just now getting goosebumps from this. Whoa. We're gonna go back to the beginning. That's amazing. That's amazing. If you guys have seen The Pirates of Penzance, she sings the character of Mabel, which is really high. That is sung by coloratura sopranos, the highest type of soprano. That type of voice often has thinner vocal folds. They tend to be shorter as well. And just anatomically, like people do have different voice types that are based on their body type. Really it's based on the vocal folds, and body types have some correspondence with vocal folds, but there's anatomy that a person has that can lead to a particular voice type. Can things be shifted around that? Absolutely. But I feel that whenever a person to me with a really low voice, whenever they approach me and they're like, I want to have like super high notes. I want to sing like John Legend. I'm like, we might need to adjust an expectation here. Can you have some notes like that? Yeah. But to have an entire voice sit up and just like take on the qualities of a different voice type, that's incredibly rare. Voices can evolve into other voice types over age. That is something that happens. I know because that's also happened to me. I started out singing coloratura soprano and ended up singing very dramatic stuff, sometimes even mezzo stuff later on. So this is just a crazy change to my mind, because not only is she sitting in a different range for her voice, but it's an entirely different style. That is very hard to achieve. I'm going to go back and talk about a few of the moments that wowed me as they were going along and I was hearing them. So you kind of get this progression of like why Elizabeth's brain feels like it's not really sure. It's still in disbelief. So the moment she starts singing, I'm like, oh yeah, Linda Ronstadt. Very, very clear vocal. She's singing a little lower here, has a little more body to her sound, but this point didn't break my brain at all. Right there, I started to go, because she's moving towards a belt where she's staying essentially in a lower register, in her chest register. When she sings Mabel, she's staying in her head register. I'm I'm going to get a little bit technical here, like even more technical than I've been so far. If we're talking about head register, and I'm using operatic terminology here or classical terminology when I'm describing the registers, just so we're clear. That has more CT engagement, more cricothyroid engagement than TA engagement. It makes a thinner sound. The vocal folds are stretched more too because it's a higher sound, so stretching and thinner amounts that are happening. It's like a rubber band. If you think about stretching a rubber band, you know how it thins out and then as you like flick it together, it wants to flick together more. Higher pitch as well, okay? CT and TA are the two primary muscles responsible for pitch shift. There's other things that are responsible as well. But TA meaning thyroarytenoid, it's really helping determine the thickness of the cords. CT is helping pull. And so CT dominant sounds are considered to be in the head voice, meaning the CT has more than 50% of the control of whatever is happening there. And TA dominant sounds are considered to be the chest voice, though you can apply this to different ways of describing registers, just in case you're thinking about contemporary registration terminology. So in her case, I'm going to call them from now on chest voice and head voice. And she's taking her chest voice up high already at this point. So my brain is starting to go, because that's not what Mabel does at all. That's not what that rule does. And that is not how singers doing operetta or opera train. They train usually head voice down. Right there was the moment that the chest voice went up a little higher than I would have expected from a person who does Mabel. And then I heard that and I was like, oh, not only can she take it up high, but she took it up higher and thinned it out the way a pop singer does. Wait a second. And she even puts it in a little cry. So at this point, like the layers of my brain started to peel off. And then I felt like the brain just melted at that top note. And right there, it almost sounded like an arytenoid rattle that she brought in. Maybe, possibly, I think it's an arytenoid rattle. Again, not something you train in classical singing. So here's this singer who is, for me, one of the ideals of a classical style, who's sang the most perfect Mabel. Just really one of my idols in high school for learning how to sing these beautiful high floating notes. And she is dwelling in a land that the classical singers almost never dwell in. It's awesome. Let's keep going. Wow. There's something in her voice that reminds me a little bit of Ann Wilson. There's a beautiful focus on the lower end. That might actually be coming as a crossover from classical, because that classical singers tend to be very good about focusing the sound when it drops down rather than letting it fall back. And that was just, it's so clear there. It reminds me of Ann Wilson's voice. Love her voice. It's so sassy. This is so fascinating because what I said earlier was an arytenoid rattle. I think that's what's causing the sound that you hear that like makes that grit in there. Arytenoid cartilages are a part of your larynx. We tend to associate this sound with Louis Armstrong. There's also other ways you can achieve a similar sound with aryepiglottic folds. But it's so fascinating to me that we have this sound here because even though Even though we are getting into an era, I think, where harsh vocal research is becoming accepted. And that's been built off of tons and tons of people moving in this direction. Really, I think that it's just recently that there's been a wave of people saying, hey, these crazy upper laryngeal structures that can make sounds like grunts and guttural screams from metal singers, those structures aren't necessarily, those sounds aren't making people's voices hurt. They're not blowing out a person's vocal folds. We have these sounds from way back when, the evidence already in singers of making this sort of gravel, that this was an okay technique to use, that it wasn't hurting. It makes me really question why did we not have a lot more research done on upper laryngeal structures earlier? What was that big holdup? I've seen some of it, but it's almost hard to believe that it's been held up as long as it has been. I'm not going to promote it too much here, but I think if y'all have been following the channel for a while, you know that we have our Kickstarter to fund vocal research. And I love that that applies to Linda Ronstadt and this really cool sound she just made with an upper laryngeal structure. It's so fascinating to me. Okay, we'll keep going. I like the dancing in the background too. Yeah. Yep. Ooh. Okay, I won't pause. I'll let it keep going. She's slaying it. Slaying it. That entrance is in that TA dominant sound. That's the sound classical singers struggle so much to make. And by the way, it isn't just about training whether or not you can reach a sound like that. It's also about muscle fibers, because as you're training in voice in different styles, you're building muscle fibers, and there are different fibers that promote different functions. So if a person has been training their entire life in opera, it's much harder for them to reach a point where they can belt like this. It's counter to the training that they've done for decades. So it's just so surprising to me, once again. But back to this instrumental solo. I love how much fun the band is having. I love how this guitar player, when he's rocking out here, he's actually bringing a ton of dissonance into the solo and then just hovering in it. Like, yeah, I know this makes you uncomfortable and you're looking for a release. It's snarky. Both of those intervals he's leaning on are dissonant. And this drummer just having the best time. They both are. I think that the one on the left has long hair so he can shake it while he's playing and be like, yeah, beast mode. Okay, let's take another moment to talk about how ridiculously good Linda Ronstadt is. Check out the lack of laryngeal tension. Like, you can't totally see everything, but I don't see veins popping out. It's just amazing. I see such beautiful engagement of the face. Gosh, like maybe a tiny bit in the throat there. A little bit of engagement as is necessary for singing. Like, singing cannot be totally relaxed. You have to engage for muscles to create a sound. And she's making fantastic mouth shapes. But there's so like little popping out tension, extrinsic laryngeal tension. There's so little here. It's like just amazing technique. Even in the face, like, I know a lot of people when they sing in these belty things, they get their concentration face. I know I've done it so much too, singing opera as well. One time during a master class, I had the master teacher come up and put a piece of tape on my forehead, right across the line that I like to cringe, and it's my focus line. It's my focus line, guys. But yeah, that tension doesn't serve the sound. And it can take away from the acting that needs to happen as well. So the tape made me feel every time I had my focus line, and it was difficult to get rid of that. Her face is just extraordinary. It's got the right amount of things engaged, and we don't have those focus lines. I'm just gonna be drooling over technique like for months to come. This is ridiculous. Yes. Nice job backing ladies too. I love it. Love that Linda Ronstadt is also from the great city of Tucson, which is where I now abide, and really enjoy being here. She also has a lovely theater that is named after her. That is also where Opera Arizona performs. In case you wondered, it's a wonderful performance hall. So a shout out to the wonders of Tucson. And if y'all would like to see some more examples of analyses of just things that I thought were like mind blowing, check out this playlist over here, and may you fall more in love with music every day.